The notary unsealed a letter at the funeral. One clause erased my daughter-in-law's new claim. My son Marcus had been dead for exactly 6 days when attorney Reginald Blackstone stood at the podium of Bethel AME Church in Southeast D.C., holding an envelope that would destroy the woman who'd killed him. The August heat made the packed sanctuary feel like a furnace despite the air conditioning, and I could smell the competing perfumes and colognes of 300 mourners who'd come to say goodbye to my boy, my only child, my heart. Before we conclude today's service, Reverend Patterson announced, his deep voice echoing off the stained glass windows that had watched over our family's baptisms, weddings, and now this, the worst day of my 73 years on this earth. Mrs. Dorothy Hamilton has requested that a final bequest from her son be read. Mr. Blackstone? The lawyer, tall, mahogany-skinned, with silver at his temples that made him look distinguished rather than old, walked to the microphone with the gravity of someone about to drop a bomb. He carried a manila envelope sealed with red wax, the kind they don't use anymore except for the most serious legal documents, the kind that changes everything. In the front row, my daughter-in-law Tiffany shifted in her designer black dress, a Valentino piece that cost more than most people's cars. She'd worn it like armor, sitting there with her tissue, dry, and her perfectly contoured makeup that hadn't smudged despite her grief. The dress was new. I'd seen the receipt on her Instagram story just 2 days ago, a shopping spree while my son's body was still in the morgue. Beside her sat her mother Lorraine, her sister Ashley, and Ashley's boyfriend Deshaun, all of them looking like vultures who'd dressed up for a feast. This letter, Blackstone began, adjusting his glasses, was given to me by Marcus Hamilton 3 months ago, with specific instructions. It was to remain sealed unless he died under suspicious circumstances within 1 year. As we all know, Marcus passed 6 days ago from what the medical examiner has ruled acute poisoning from unknown substances pending further investigation. Tiffany's hand flew to her chest in a gesture of shock so theatrical it belonged on a stage. "What is this?" she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Dorothy, what is this about?" I didn't look at her. Couldn't look at her. If I did, I might have walked over there and strangled her with my bare hands, right there in God's house. Instead, I kept my eyes on Blackstone and the envelope that contained my son's final move in a chess game he'd been playing for months. "The letter reads as follows," Blackstone continued, breaking the seal with deliberate ceremony. The crack of the wax echoed in the silent church. "I, Marcus Anthony Hamilton, being of sound mind and body, write this letter on May 15, 2024, in the presence of attorney Reginald Blackstone and notary public Jennifer Wu, to be opened only upon my death if that death occurs under suspicious circumstances." The church was so quiet you could hear the ceiling fans turning, could hear old Mrs. Washington's oxygen tank hissing 3 pews back, could hear Tiffany's designer heels tapping nervously against the floor. "First, I need everyone to know that I have been documenting my wife's attempts to kill me for the past 6 months. The evidence is stored in 3 locations: a safety deposit box at Bank of America on H Street, a cloud server whose credentials are with my attorney, and a flash drive hidden in my mother's home. This evidence includes recorded conversations, photographs of tampered food and medication, and medical records showing systematic poisoning." Gasps rippled through the congregation like waves. Tiffany stood up so fast her purse fell, spilling its contents across the floor, lipstick, phone, and a small bottle of what looked like prescription pills that she quickly scrambled to retrieve. "This is insane!" she shouted. "He was sick! He was paranoid! Dorothy, you know he was having mental health issues." "Sit down," I said, my voice carrying the kind of authority that comes from teaching in D.C. public schools for 40 years. "Sit down and listen to what my son has to say." Reverend Patterson nodded to 2 ushers, big men who played security when needed, and they moved to stand at the ends of Tiffany's pew, not threatening, just present, just in case. Blackstone continued, "Second, I need to address the matter of my estate. My wife, Tiffany, believes she is the sole beneficiary of my life insurance policies and assets. She has been pressuring me to update my will for months, becoming increasingly aggressive when I refused. What she doesn't know is that I did update my will 3 months ago. Tiffany's face went from performative grief to genuine panic. That's impossible. I would have known. I handle all our legal documents. The new will, Blackstone read on, was executed in secret with the help of Mr. Blackstone and properly witnessed. In it, I have included a specific clause that I will now share with everyone present. The lawyer paused, looked directly at Tiffany, then continued. In the event that my death is ruled suspicious, criminal, or the result of foul play, my wife Tiffany Marie Hamilton née Jackson is to receive exactly $1 from my estate. No more, no less. This includes all life insurance policies, all real estate holdings, all investments, and all personal property. The church erupted. People talking, shouting, some even applauding like they were at a revival. Tiffany stood frozen, her mouth open, her carefully constructed mask of grief completely shattered. Furthermore, Blackstone raised his voice over the chaos. The will states that in such circumstances, the entirety of Marcus Hamilton's estate, valued at approximately $7 million, is to be divided as follows: 90% to his mother, Dorothy Elizabeth Hamilton, and 10% to be used to establish a scholarship fund at Howard University for students from Southeast D.C. That's illegal. Tiffany's mother, Lorraine, was on her feet now, pointing a manicured finger at Blackstone. You can't disinherit a spouse like that. We'll contest this. Actually, Blackstone said calmly, in D.C., you can disinherit a spouse if you can prove attempted murder or conspiracy to murder. The evidence Marcus compiled, which has already been turned over to the Metropolitan Police Department, is quite comprehensive. That's when we heard the sirens, getting closer. Tiffany heard them too, and her eyes went wide with the kind of fear you see in trapped animals. You set me up, she said, turning to me. You evil old bitch, you set me up. No, baby girl, I said, standing slowly, my knees protesting after sitting through the long service. My son set you up, from the grave, because he knew what you were from the start, but he loved you anyway, loved you and hoped you'd change. But when you started poisoning him, he started planning, and Marcus was always smarter than you gave him credit for. If you're feeling that cold satisfaction that comes from watching a predator become prey, from seeing justice arrive in real time, stay with me, because this funeral is about to become a crime scene, and the evidence my son gathered is about to shock everyone. The police entered the church with a quiet authority that somehow made their presence more dramatic than if they'd burst in with sirens blaring. Detective Monica Rivers, whom I'd been working with for the past week, walked straight to Tiffany with 2 uniformed officers flanking her. Tiffany Hamilton, she said, her voice carrying across the sanctuary. You're under arrest for the murder of Marcus Hamilton. You have the right to remain silent. Wait! Tiffany backed away, bumping into her sister Ashley. You can't arrest me at his funeral. I'm his widow. I'm grieving. Ma'am, we have evidence that you purchased ricin online 6 weeks ago using cryptocurrency. We have evidence that you searched, how long does ricin poisoning take to kill on your laptop? We have evidence. That's not mine, Tiffany interrupted. Someone planted that. Dorothy. She planted it because she never liked me. Detective Rivers continued, as if Tiffany hadn't spoken. We have video footage from your neighbor's security camera showing you grinding castor beans in your garage at 2 a.m. on July 3rd. We have text messages between you and your sister discussing, and I quote, how much longer this is taking than expected. Ashley tried to run then. Actually tried to run in her 6-inch heels and tight dress, making it about 3 feet before an officer stopped her. Ashley Jackson, you're also under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. The church was in chaos now. People standing on pews to get a better view, phones out recording everything, voices rising in shock and vindication, and that particular satisfaction that comes from seeing someone get what they deserve. Mama, do something, Tiffany screamed at Lorraine, who stood frozen, calculating whether to distance herself or double down on her daughter's innocence. But there was more to come. Blackstone cleared his throat into the microphone, and gradually the chaos settled enough for him to continue. There's another matter, he said. The letter continues. I discovered 3 weeks before my death that my wife has been having an affair with my business partner, Jerome Watson. I have photographs, hotel receipts, and credit card records proving this relationship has been going on for 8 months. Additionally, I discovered that Tiffany is 4 months pregnant. Given that I had a vasectomy 2 years ago, which I never told her about, this child cannot be mine. Now the congregation really lost it. This was better than any soap opera, any reality TV show. This was real-life drama playing out in real time in the house of the Lord. Tiffany's face went from pale to green. She swayed on her feet, and for a moment I thought she might faint. "That's a lie," she whispered, but everyone heard it in the sudden silence that followed the revelation. Marcus didn't have a vasectomy. "Actually," I said, my voice steady despite the tornado of emotions in my chest, "he did. I went with him to the appointment. He didn't want children with you, Tiffany. He told me he knew something was off about you from the beginning, but he thought he could fix you, save you. That was my son's fatal flaw. He always wanted to save broken people." "You knew?" She turned on me, and there was murder in her eyes. Real murder, not the slow, poisoning kind she'd been doing to my son. "You knew and you let him stay with me?" "I tried to talk him into leaving you, but he said he needed proof, said he needed to catch you in the act. So he started documenting everything, every meal you cooked that made him sick, every medication you tampered with, every lie you told." Detective Rivers pulled out an evidence bag with a small bottle inside. "Ms. Hamilton, is this your prescription for insulin?" "I'm not diabetic," Tiffany said automatically, then realized her mistake. "No, but your husband was, type 1 diabetic since he was 12, and someone has been replacing his insulin with saline solution. Someone who had access to his medication, someone who lived with him. That could have been anyone. Your fingerprints are on the vial, only yours and his, and we have video from the pharmacy security camera showing you purchasing saline solution 14 times over the past 3 months. As they handcuffed her, Tiffany looked around the church wildly, seeking an ally, someone who would speak up for her. Her eyes landed on Jerome Watson, sitting in the middle section, trying to look inconspicuous. "Jerome," she called out, tell them about our plan." Jerome stood to leave, but the police were already moving toward him. "Our plan?" Detective Rivers asked, interested. "Would you like to elaborate on that, Ms. Hamilton?" "I want a lawyer," Tiffany said quickly, realizing she'd already said too much. "That's probably wise," the detective replied. "Jerome Watson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder." As they led the 3 of them out, Tiffany, Ashley, and Jerome, the church slowly settled back into something resembling calm. But there was still more to come. I knew it. Blackstone knew it. And judging by the way people were staying in their seats instead of leaving, they knew it too. "If I may," Blackstone said, returning to the microphone, "there are a few more matters to address from Marcus's letter." Lorraine, Tiffany's mother, stood up. "This is ridiculous. My daughter is being railroaded. That will is fake. That evidence is planted, and this whole thing is a setup by that woman." She pointed at me. "She never thought my daughter was good enough for her precious son." "Ma'am," Blackstone said patiently, "would you like to explain why Marcus documented you offering to, quote, help speed things along with, quote, something untraceable from my collection?" Lorraine's face went ashen. "I don't know what you're talking about." "We have the recording," Detective Rivers said, having returned from putting the first 3 arrestees in squad cars. "Marcus was wearing a wire during Sunday dinner at your house 3 weeks ago. You offered to provide something called succinylcholine, which you apparently have access to through your work at the veterinary clinic." "I was joking." "You provided a detailed explanation of how it would cause cardiac arrest and be almost impossible to detect unless someone was specifically looking for it." "That doesn't sound like a joke, Ms. Jackson." "Lorraine Jackson," another officer said, moving toward her. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder." As they let her out, she screamed obscenities that I won't repeat in the retelling, especially not in a church. But the gist was that we'd all regret this, that her family had connections, that we didn't know who we were messing with. "Actually," I said, loud enough for her to hear as they dragged her past my pew, "we know exactly who we're messing with. A family of murderers who thought they could kill my son for his money. But you didn't know Marcus had been preparing for this since the day he met you. He knew what you were, all of you." The church was quieter now, more subdued. The shock was wearing off, replaced by a kind of grim satisfaction. Marcus had been beloved in the community, a successful financial advisor who never forgot where he came from, who sponsored basketball teams and college scholarships, who showed up to every community event even after he moved to that fancy house in Upper Northwest that Tiffany had insisted on. Blackstone returned to the letter one more time. "There's one final section I need to read." Marcus wrote, "To my mother, Dorothy Hamilton, the strongest woman I know. I'm sorry I didn't listen when you told me Tiffany wasn't right. You saw what I refused to see, but I need you to know that everything I did these last months was to protect you and to ensure justice. The doctors say the poisoning has done permanent damage to my organs. Even if I stopped ingesting the ricin today, I would likely die within the year. So I decided to let it happen, to let Tiffany think she was winning, while I gathered enough evidence to ensure she could never hurt anyone else. I broke down then, really broke down for the first time since I'd found my son collapsed in his home office 6 days ago, his body finally giving out from months of systematic poisoning. My sister Gladys held me while I sobbed, while the weight of knowing he'd sacrificed himself for justice crushed me like a physical thing. Mom," Blackstone continued, his own voice cracking with emotion, "please don't grieve too hard for me. I lived a good life. I loved and was loved. I made a difference in our community. And in the end, I got to choose how my story ended. Not many people get that. I chose justice. I chose to protect others from Tiffany and her family, and I chose to make sure you were taken care of. The money means nothing compared to your well-being, but I know you'll use it to help others, the way you always have. Give my love to everyone. Tell them I went out fighting. Your son, Marcus." The church was silent except for crying. Even grown men were wiping their eyes, remembering the young man who'd mentored their sons, who'd helped them with financial planning for free, who'd never forgotten his roots, even when money could have let him leave it all behind. Reverend Patterson returned to the podium. "Let us pray," he said, and everyone bowed their heads. "Lord, we thank you for the life of Marcus Anthony Hamilton. We thank you for his courage, his sacrifice, and his dedication to justice. We pray for his mother Dorothy, that she may find peace in knowing her son died a hero. We pray for justice to be served. And Lord, we pray for the souls of those who conspired against Marcus, that they may find redemption in your grace, even as they face earthly consequences for their actions." "Amen," the congregation responded, though I noticed not everyone said it with the same enthusiasm. After the service, after the arrests, after the cameras and reporters who'd gotten wind of the story, we went to the cemetery. It was a smaller group now, just family and close friends, the people who'd known Marcus since he was a baby, who'd watched him grow from a scrawny kid with glasses to a successful man who never lost his humility. As they lowered my son's casket into the ground at Lincoln Memorial Cemetery, the same place where his father was buried 15 years ago, I thought about the last real conversation we'd had. It was 3 weeks ago, at my kitchen table over coffee and sweet potato pie. "Mama," he'd said, looking older than his 35 years, "I need you to know some things. Baby, you're scaring me. I know, but I need you to listen. Tiffany's trying to kill me." I'd known, of course. A mother always knows when something's trying to hurt her child, but hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way that suspicion couldn't. "Then leave her," I'd said. "Pack your things and leave." "I can't. Not yet. She's not just trying to kill me, Mama. She's planning to kill others, too. Jerome's wife, Ashley's boyfriend, Deshaun, once she gets his life insurance. They're a family of killers, and they've done this before." "What do you mean, done this before?" "Tiffany's first husband. The one who died in that car accident 5 years ago? It wasn't an accident. The brake lines were cut. And Lorraine's husband, Tiffany's father, the heart attack? Poison. They've been doing this for years, targeting men with money, making it look natural or accidental. Then go to the police. With what proof? They're careful, they're smart, but they're also arrogant. They think I'm too sick now to fight back. But I've been documenting everything, recording conversations, saving evidence, working with a private investigator. We're building a case that will stop them all. Marcus, baby, your life isn't worth... How many more men will they kill if I don't stop them? How many more families will they destroy? The private investigator found at least 4 suspicious deaths connected to them over the past decade. 4 families destroyed. 4 sets of children left without fathers. I tried to argue, but Marcus was stubborn. Got that from his father. Once he'd decided on something, there was no changing his mind. "I'm dying anyway, Mama," he'd said, taking my hands in his. "The ricin has done too much damage. My kidneys are failing. My liver is shot. Even if I went to the hospital today, even if they arrested Tiffany today, I'd maybe have 6 months. This way, my death means something. This way, I save lives." If you're wondering how a son could sacrifice himself so deliberately, how a mother could watch knowing what was coming, tap that subscribe button, because the evidence Marcus gathered is about to reveal a serial killing family that had been operating for over a decade. The day after the funeral, Detective Rivers came to my house with boxes of evidence. Marcus had been thorough, obsessively, brilliantly thorough. "Your son was remarkable," she said, setting up a laptop on my dining room table. "He documented everything. We have enough here to put all 4 of them away for life and possibly uncover more victims." She showed me some of what Marcus had compiled. Screenshots of Tiffany's search history, how much ricin is lethal, symptoms of ricin poisoning, how to extract ricin from castor beans, can ricin be detected in autopsy. There were recordings too. Marcus had worn a wire for 3 months, recording every conversation. In one, Tiffany and her sister discussed their timeline. "He's taking longer to die than Robert did," Tiffany's voice said. "Robert was older," Ashley replied. "Weaker. Marcus is young, healthy otherwise. You might need to up the dose." "I can't. He's already suspicious. Yesterday he asked why his coffee tasted weird. Then use something else. Mom has access to that stuff at the clinic. The succinylcholine? That's too obvious. Not if you make it look like a diabetic coma. Replace his insulin with it. That's brilliant." They'd laughed then, actually laughed about killing my son. There were photos too. Tiffany grinding castor beans, Ashley helping her. Lorraine providing various poisons from the veterinary clinic where she worked. Jerome and Tiffany in bed together, taken by the private investigator Marcus had hired. "But this," Detective Rivers said, pulling up another file, "this is what's going to blow this case wide open." It was a spreadsheet. Marcus had tracked every suspicious death connected to the Jackson family going back 15 years. There were 12 names. 12 men who'd died mysteriously after marrying or dating women in Tiffany's extended family and social circle. Robert Chen, Tiffany's first husband, died in a car accident. Brake lines cut. William Jackson, Tiffany's father. Heart attack. Poisoned with digitalis. Jerome Mitchell, Ashley's first boyfriend. Fell from a balcony. Pushed. David Park, their cousin Monica's husband. Drowning. Held underwater. The list went on. Each death investigated as an accident or natural causes. Each woman collecting life insurance. Each woman moving on to the next victim within a year. "It's a murder ring," Detective Rivers said. "A family business of killing men for money. Your son uncovered what we believe might be one of the most prolific serial killing operations in D.C. history. How did no one notice? They were smart about it. Different methods, different jurisdictions, spread out over time. And they targeted men who were either isolated from their families or had small families. Men whose deaths wouldn't cause too much scrutiny. But Marcus had me. He had family. They didn't count on that. And they definitely didn't count on him figuring it out and documenting everything. Over the next weeks, more evidence emerged. The FBI got involved when they realized the murders crossed state lines. More arrests were made. Monica Jackson, 2 other cousins, an aunt who'd provided alibis. In total, 14 people were arrested in connection with what the media was calling the Black Widow Ring. Tiffany tried to make a deal, offering to testify against her family in exchange for a lighter sentence. But the evidence was so overwhelming that the prosecutor didn't need her cooperation. She was looking at life without parole. They all were. During the trial, which began 6 months after Marcus's death, the full scope of their crimes became clear. They'd stolen over $20 million through life insurance and inheritance over 15 years. They'd developed a system, identify targets at churches, social events, and dating apps, court them quickly, push for fast marriages, Take out large life insurance policies. Kill within 2 years. Move on to the next target. They'd gotten sloppy with Marcus because he seemed perfect. Young, successful, with substantial assets, and what they thought was a small, elderly mother who wouldn't cause trouble. They hadn't researched enough to know I was a retired teacher who'd raised a son to be thorough, careful, and strategic. They hadn't known Marcus had minored in criminal justice in college before switching to finance. They hadn't known he'd grown up in Southeast D.C., where you learned early to see danger coming and document everything because nobody else would protect you. When Tiffany took the stand, she tried to play the victim. Said Marcus had been abusive, controlling, that she'd acted in self-defense. The prosecutor, a young black woman named Jasmine Edwards, who reminded me of the fire I'd had in my teaching days, destroyed her in cross-examination. "Mrs. Hamilton, you claim Marcus was abusive. Can you explain these text messages where you tell your sister, and I quote, 'He's literally the perfect husband. It's almost boring how good he is to me. I can't wait until this is over and I can find someone actually exciting.' I was putting on a front. For your sister? Your co-conspirator? She didn't know about the abuse, but she knew about the murder plot." Tiffany had no answer for that. The prosecutor continued, "Can you explain why, if you were afraid of Marcus, you were having an affair with his business partner? That was, Jerome was helping me escape." "Escape? By planning to kill Marcus and split his money? That's an interesting escape plan." The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts for all defendants. Tiffany got life without parole. Ashley got 40 years. Lorraine got life without parole. Jerome got 35 years. The others got various sentences ranging from 15 to 40 years. As they led Tiffany away, she turned to look at me one last time. "I loved him," she said, tears streaming down her face. "In my own way, I loved him." "No," I said, standing tall despite my arthritis, despite my grief, despite everything. "You loved his money. You loved what he could give you. But you never loved him. Because love doesn't poison. Love doesn't plot. Love doesn't laugh about death. You don't know what love is. But my son did. And his love for justice, for protecting others, that's what put you where you are now." After the trial, I had decisions to make about Marcus's estate. 4. $7 million is more money than I'd ever dreamed of having. Marcus had worked hard for it, invested wisely, built something from nothing, and now it was mine, covered in his blood. I kept the letter he'd left me with the will, the one Blackstone gave me privately. "Mama, by the time you read this, I'll be gone, but I want you to know that I'm at peace with it. I chose this, not the poisoning. Tiffany chose that, but I chose to use my death for something greater. I know you're angry with me for not leaving when I could have, but Mama, they would have just moved on to the next man. Another family would be grieving. Another mother would be burying her son. I couldn't let that happen. The money I'm leaving you, I know you don't care about it. You never cared about money beyond having enough to be comfortable, but I want you to use it to help others. Start a foundation. Help young men from Southeast get education and opportunities. Warn them about predators who come disguised as love. And Mama, please don't spend the rest of your life grieving me. I had 35 good years. I had your love, which was more than enough. I made a difference. I saved lives by giving mine. That's not a tragedy. That's a victory. Take care of yourself. Find joy again. Maybe take that trip to Paris you always talked about. Fall in love again if you want. You're only 73, still young. Live, Mama. Live for both of us. Your son forever, Marcus P.S. I hid photo albums in the attic of your house. Pictures from before Tiffany, when things were simple and good. Remember me that way. I did start a foundation, the Marcus Hamilton Foundation for Justice and Education. We provide scholarships for young men from Southeast D.C. to attend college. But more importantly, we provide education about domestic violence, about predatory relationships, about the warning signs of someone who loves your wallet more than your soul. We also fund private investigations for families who suspect their loved ones are being victimized. In the 3 years since Marcus's death, we've helped expose 7 similar cases, 7 families saved, 7 potential murders prevented. Tiffany writes me letters from prison sometimes. I don't open them. There's nothing she could say that would matter. But I keep them, filed away, evidence that she still exists, still thinks about what she did. I hope she thinks about it every day for the rest of her life. Ashley was killed in prison last year. Apparently, she tried to run the same scheme on the wrong woman's girlfriend. They found her in the laundry room, poisoned with bleach. Ironic, really. Live by poison, die by poison. Lorraine is in solitary confinement after attempting to poison a guard. Old habits die hard, I suppose. She's 70 years old and still trying to kill people for profit. Jerome found religion in prison, or so his letters claim. He writes about redemption, forgiveness, making amends. I don't respond to him either. Some sins don't deserve forgiveness. Some amends can't be made. The house Marcus shared with Tiffany sold for $1.2 million. I donated the money to a women's shelter, specifically for women escaping abusive relationships. I couldn't keep money that came from the place where my son was murdered slowly, day by day, meal by meal. I kept his childhood home, though. A small row house in Southeast that he'd bought and renovated for rental income. I live there now, having sold my own place. It feels like him, has his energy in the walls, good memories instead of poisoned ones. Last week was the 4th anniversary of Marcus's death. I visited his grave, brought yellow roses, his favorite. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful. His headstone reads, Marcus Anthony Hamilton, son, hero, protector. He died so others could live. As I stood there, an elderly man approached. He was well-dressed, dignified, maybe 80 years old. Are you Dorothy Hamilton? He asked. Yes. My name is Robert Chen Sr. My son Robert was married to Tiffany before she killed him. We stood there together, 2 parents who'd lost sons to the same woman, the same family, the same greed. I never suspected, he said. Even after Robert died, I thought it was an accident. If your son hadn't exposed them. He saved lives, I said. That's what I hold on to. He saved my other son, Mr. Chen said. My younger boy, David, was dating Ashley. They were engaged. After your son's evidence came out, after the arrests, David realized he was next. They'd already taken out a $2 million policy on him. Marcus would be glad to know that. We stood in comfortable silence for a while, 2 old people bound by loss and justice. Does it get easier? He asked. No, but it gets different. The sharp edge of grief dulls into something you can carry. And knowing they're locked away, knowing they can't hurt anyone else, that helps. After Mr. Chen left, I sat on the bench Marcus had installed near his father's grave. He'd wanted them close, these 2 men who'd shaped me in different ways. I pulled out the latest letter from the foundation, updating me on our scholarship recipients. Jamal Thompson, full ride to Howard, studying criminal justice. David Martinez, Georgetown University, pre-law. Anthony Williams, University of Maryland, finance with a minor in criminal justice. 15 young men so far, all from Southeast, all pursuing education that would help them protect themselves and others from predators. Marcus would have been proud. As the sun set over the cemetery, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that Marcus used to photograph obsessively, I thought about justice, not the legal kind, that had been served, but the cosmic kind, the kind that asks whether one good life is worth exposing a dozen evil ones. Marcus thought it was. He'd made that calculation deliberately, knowing the poison was killing him, choosing to gather evidence rather than seek treatment that might have prolonged his life. He'd traded his years for justice, his future for the futures of men he'd never meet. If you're still with me, still processing this story of sacrifice and justice, of a son who chose his death to mean something, share this story. Because there are predators out there right now, plotting against someone's son, someone's father, someone's brother. The Marcus Hamilton Foundation receives letters every week. Mostly they're requests for scholarships or thank you notes from recipients. But sometimes they're different. My wife has been acting strange since I updated my life insurance. My girlfriend's family keeps asking about my assets. My husband's ex-wife died mysteriously, and now I'm sick all the time. We investigate everyone. We've exposed 3 murder plots in the past year alone. 3 families saved. 3 Marcus victories from beyond the grave. I'm 77 now. My health isn't what it was, But I'll keep fighting until I can't anymore. Keep warning people. Keep protecting the vulnerable. It's what Marcus would want. It's what he died for. Last month, I got a call from a young man named Christopher. He'd read about Marcus's case online, recognized the patterns in his own relationship. His wife of 6 months had suddenly become interested in life insurance. Her sister had started visiting more, bringing homemade meals that always made him feel sick. Her mother worked at a pharmacy and had made jokes about untraceable poisons. We got him out, set him up with a safe house, a lawyer, and a private investigator. Within 2 weeks, we had enough evidence for arrests. Another family of killers exposed, another life saved. Christopher sent me a thank you card with a photo of him with his parents, alive and safe. Inside he wrote, "Marcus saved my life. I never met him, but he saved my life. Thank you for keeping his mission alive." That's why I tell this story. Not for sympathy or attention, but because Marcus's death needs to keep meaning something. Every time someone hears this story and thinks, "Wait, that sounds familiar," every time someone questions why their spouse is suddenly interested in insurance, every time someone listens to their gut instinct that something's wrong, Marcus saves another life. Tiffany thought she won when she killed my son. She thought she'd gotten away with the perfect murder, would collect millions and move on to the next victim. She didn't understand that Marcus had turned himself into a weapon against her, that his death was a trap she walked right into. The notary unsealing that letter at his funeral wasn't just revealing a will. It was detonating a bomb Marcus had carefully constructed. Every clause designed to destroy her claim, expose her crimes, and save future victims. Some people are remembered for how they lived. Marcus is remembered for how he chose to die, with purpose, with strategy, with a love for justice that transcended his own survival. I keep a photo of him on my mantle, from before Tiffany, when his smile was real and untainted by the knowledge of evil. He's laughing at something off camera, probably one of my terrible jokes, his eyes crinkled with genuine joy. That's the Marcus I remember. Not the hollow-eyed man who sat at my kitchen table explaining why he had to die, but the boy who grew up to be a hero, even if that heroism cost him everything. The Foundation's motto, which Marcus wrote in one of his final documents, is simple. Evil thrives in silence. Speak up. Document everything. Save lives. We've given out cards with those words to thousands of people. They sit in wallets and purses across D.C. Little reminders that someone might be plotting against you, that love shouldn't come with life insurance forms, that feeling sick after every meal isn't normal. Some people think I'm paranoid, that I see murderers everywhere now. Maybe they're right. But I'd rather be paranoid and alive than trusting and dead. Marcus trusted, and even though he knew what was happening, that trust cost him his life. The Jackson family killing ring made one crucial mistake. They targeted someone who loved justice more than life. They thought Marcus was weak because he was kind, thought he was stupid because he was generous. They didn't understand that Southeast D.C. raises fighters, that teachers' sons know how to document everything, that a man who built himself from nothing knows how to build a case that will destroy you from the grave. As I sit here in Marcus's childhood home, surrounded by photos of him at every age, I can't help but think about paths not taken. If he'd never met Tiffany at that networking event, if he'd listened when I said she seemed off, if he'd left the first time he got sick after one of her meals. But Marcus believed in purpose, in meaning, in things happening for reasons bigger than we can see. He'd say that he was meant to meet Tiffany, meant to expose her family, meant to save those future victims. He'd say his 35 years were complete, that he'd done what he came here to do. I don't know if I believe in that kind of destiny, but I do believe in choice. And Marcus chose to be a hero, chose to gather evidence instead of seeking treatment, chose to let his death mean something instead of fighting for a few more poisoned months. That's what I tell the young men who receive our scholarships. Marcus Hamilton chose justice over life. Now you choose what to do with the life he gave you. Make it matter. Make it count. And always, always document everything. The last entry in Marcus's journal, found in his office after his death, reads, "Tomorrow I die. I can feel it in my bones, my organs shutting down one by one. Tiffany made my favorite dinner tonight, kissed me goodnight, told me she loved me, all while knowing she'd poisoned my food again. The performance of it would be impressive if it weren't so evil. Mom will find this journal. She'll read these words and cry. But Mom, please know, I'm not sad. I'm not afraid. I'm satisfied. I've done what I set out to do. The evidence is complete. The trap is set. Tomorrow I die, but tomorrow Tiffany's life, as she knows it, ends too. To whoever reads this after my mother, learn from my story. Trust but verify. Love but document. Hope but prepare. And if someone starts talking about life insurance on the third date, run. Marcus Hamilton, final entry, August 11th, 2024. May justice prevail. It did prevail. It continues to prevail every time we expose another predator, save another life, tell another person Marcus's story. The notary who unsealed that letter at the funeral still practices law. Blackstone and Associates has become the go-to firm for victims of domestic poisoning and insurance fraud. They work with the foundation, often pro bono, to protect the vulnerable and prosecute the predators. Your son changed how we practice law, Blackstone told me recently. We now advise all our clients to create sealed letters, to document suspicious behavior, to protect themselves from beyond the grave if necessary. We call them Hamilton provisions. Marcus would have laughed at that. He never wanted fame or recognition, just justice. But sometimes justice requires a name, a face, a story that people remember. His story has been featured in 3 true crime documentaries, a Netflix series, and countless podcasts. Each time, I participate, not because I enjoy reliving the worst days of my life, but because each show reaches new potential victims, new potential Marcuses who might be saved. Last week, a young woman approached me at the grocery store. She recognized me from one of the documentaries. "Mrs. Hamilton," she said, tears in her eyes. "Your son saved my father. Dad was dating a woman whose previous husband had died mysteriously. After seeing Marcus's story, he got suspicious, did some digging. She was poisoning him. He's alive because of Marcus. These moments make the pain worthwhile. Each life saved adds meaning to Marcus's death, transforms it from tragedy to purpose. As I prepare to join him, my own health failing now, my heart tired from carrying this grief, I think about what I'll tell him when I see him again. If there's an after, if there's a place where mothers meet their murdered sons, I'll tell him this. You did it, baby. You saved them. Dozens, maybe hundreds by now. Your death keeps saving lives, keeps exposing evil, keeps protecting the innocent. You're not just my hero, you're theirs too. All those men who get to live, get to raise their children, get to grow old, they're your legacy. Rest now, my warrior son. Your battle is won, but your victory continues. The Marcus Hamilton Foundation will continue after I'm gone. I've made sure of that. Set up a trust, a board of directors, an endowment that will fund investigations and scholarships for generations. Marcus's death will keep meaning something long after everyone who knew him is gone. But for now, while I still have breath, I'll keep telling his story, keep warning the vulnerable, keep exposing the predators. It's the least I can do for the son who gave everything for justice. The notary unsealed a letter at my son's funeral that destroyed his killer's claim to his estate. But more than that, it unsealed the truth about a serial-killing family, saved countless future victims, and transformed one man's murder into a movement for justice. That's Marcus's true inheritance, not the money, but the mission. Not the estate, but the purpose. Not the death, but the lives saved because of it. And somewhere in federal prison, Tiffany Hamilton sits in a cell, knowing that every day for the rest of her life, she'll be reminded that she didn't win. She killed Marcus's body, but not his mission. She destroyed his life, but created his legacy. She thought she was the predator, but Marcus proved that even in death, justice can strike back. The clause in his will that erased her claim was just the beginning. The real erasure was of her freedom, her future, her family's killing empire. All gone because one man chose justice over survival, documentation over silence, purpose over years. That's what I want you to remember from this story. Not the sadness of a mother losing her son, but the triumph of justice prevailing. Not the evil of the Jackson family, but the good that came from exposing them. Not the death, but the lives saved. Marcus Anthony Hamilton, 1989, 2024. He died for justice. Justice won.